almost $150 billion in 2025. And
Plattner polling better than Mills post scandal is crazy. Oh my God. New Maine Senate poll, 7-7 post scandal, shows Graham Plattner at 42% to Susan Collins gaining 5 points. Against Susan Collins versus Janet Mills matchup, Janet Mills is still performing worse than goddamn Graham Plattner. Troy Jackson, on the other hand, up +5 against Susan Collins, 44. Let's see what some of the other people polled look like, or what their performance looks like. So Plattner loses to Collins in this matchup. 11% said they were undecided. Also tested Jackson, Bellows, former Senate candidate Jordan Wood, former public health official Nirav Shah, and Democratic Governor Janet Mills. Flash poll was conducted over a 24-hour period. Of the Democrats tested, Jackson performed the best, Troy Jackson, leading Collins 49-44 with 7% of voters undecided. Bellows and Shah both essentially tied Collins at 47% and 45% respectively. Mills has not weighed in publicly on the political poll report, trailing Collins 48% to 37%, while Wood trailed 47% to 38%. 15% were undecided in both the Wood and Mills matchups. Incredible. Hey, do you know anything about the stuff with Troy Jackson throwing a water bottle out of female staffer? Heard it from Progressive Victory friends. Brother, if you ever bring some Progressive Victory shit in here to me ever again, I will fucking put you on a spaceship to the sun. One-way ticket to the sun. You're going. Okay? Never do that ever again. Never do that ever again. Okay? Ridiculous. A right-wing smear against a dude who's been in the state legislature and the president for 6 years, been in the state legislature for 20 plus years, is being elevated as though it's like a serious fucking problem that is known by everyone in Maine state politics, because the Progressive Victory group posted it. These unsubstantiated right-wing smears posted it and then deleted it. Are you out of your fucking mind? They are deeply unserious. Hopefully they learn something from these lessons. Jesus Christ. What's next, dude? Are you going to talk to me about Digital Ground Game, DGG? What have they done? Should we talk about them too? What are we doing? These are not serious institutions. Please stop. Some of you see like a group on Twitter with a fucking check mark and immediately go, oh, this must be valid. Stop, please. Not every organization is like a serious organization. Progressive Victory openly admitted that they are an unserious organization afterwards. They're like, oh, we're just a bunch of live stream chatters. I mean, come on. I don't know how valid this is, but Maine State Representative Valley Geiger says Graham Plattner is supporting her bid for U.S. Senate in Maine should he drop out of the race. I don't know why she just came out of the gate swinging on this. I will say this, though. I don't think a Graham Plattner endorsement is as bad as people claim it is on Twitter. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Like people are greatly, I mean, people are just wrong for assuming that's a bad thing. from the perspective of the Mainers, especially considering that he's still at fucking 42% and performing better than Janet Mills against Susan Collins after the credible rape allegations hit the timeline. Okay? From the perspective of Mainers, a Graham Plattner endorsement is a continuation. They will recognize it most likely as a continuation of like the populist rage that they clearly have. Apparently, Plattner made the announcement. I don't know. There's a lot going on, man. People think his endorsement is bunk because they think he's an operative. He's not. He's just a rapist. You are wrong. Most Mainers hate the fucking guy after it came out that he's a rapist. Demonstrably, the polling shows an alternative reality to what you're saying. Yeah. I've learned that it'll be a caucus over a convention, but still missing a few details, says David Dayen. Saying that the process will be inclusive and that Plattner supporters will participate in the open process to step forward and recognize the rejection of any backroom deal. But the process should be developed by now, as time is of the essence. Everybody get on with it, says David Dayen. Washington Post is reporting that Graham Plattner will be speaking tonight. That is the other reporting also corroborates that. Okay. I think, given what happened with Kamala Harris being handpicked as the continuation of Biden with no open primary process, something that I was in favor of as well, by the way, which I think was wrong. I will recognize that. That was one of my biggest L's. Given that, especially considering how Kamala ran, right? If Kamala ran as like a more populist, change candidate, things would be different. She would be president right now. But given how things worked out, as Kamala was the hand-selected establishment replacement for Joe Biden, and did not run as a change candidate, but a continuation, and how she lost to Donald Trump, I would go so far as to say the highest level of panic from liberals in every state, including Maine, is rerunning that same exact situation where the Maine Democratic Party does like a shady backroom deal, put forward an establishment Democrat to say, this is who you have to vote for, suck it up. If they do that, it's definitely going to lose. The whoever that candidate is will definitely lose to Susan Collins, 100%. There needs to be transparency in this process. Okay? There needs to be transparency in this process. A lot of people are very frustrated. As a matter of fact, part of the reason why they voted for Graham Plattner over the hand-selected establishment candidate that the Democrats cleared the field for, who happened to be the governor, Janet Mills, is because of that rage that they had towards the party. They wanted to punish the party. They were looking for a different path forward. Turns out that different path forward wasn't just a populist campaigner, but a populist campaigner that also happened to be a rapist, allegedly. Okay? Maine State Representative Valley Geiger, D. Rockland, says Graham Plattner wants her to take his place on the ballot and run against Susan Collins in November. Maine's Total Coverage spoke with Geiger on the phone on Wednesday afternoon before Plattner made any formal announcement and said he called her on Monday night and said he was throwing his support behind her. He said, Valley, you're a fighter. You have been with this movement since the beginning, Geiger told Maine's Total Coverage. She says Plattner then asked if he could put her name forward, and she said yes. Geiger says she's heartbroken by the allegations against Plattner, but that he can't run for the Senate. The Maine Democratic Party did schedule an emergency meeting at 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Geiger, a Democrat from Rockland, represents House District 42. Her currently serving her third term. Geiger sits on both the Labor Committee and Energy, Utilities, and Technology Committee. What is this? Kyle Kalinske. Okay, dude. But yeah, this was from yesterday from the Maine Democrats. But I also disagree with Edinger Mentum's take that this is a bad move that will like tarnish whoever his hand-selected candidate is. I don't think that works that way. Not only does he have tremendous leverage over this process because he can just choose not to drop out, which would be devastating, but outside of that, I think like given that 150,000 plus Mainers voted for him, he still has a lot of swaying power over the election. Okay. That's what I think. It looks like the reports about him trying to make his departure conditional on him getting to choose a successor are true, utterly embarrassing behavior on his part that could turn this into an even bigger disaster for his supposed movement. Don't like him, but fully disagree. He should fully use his leverage as the nominee to replace him with someone with the same politics voters elected him for. Under the threat of staying in and handing the race to Collins, it will be an anvil around the necks of everyone who supported him. You cannot play fast and loose about defeating Republicans like this. No, I think here's why I disagree. Because I think the Graham Plattner victory, from the perspective of Mainers, was a victory over the establishment Democrats. This is a continuation of that same exact resentment politics that has built and has grown in the heart of many Mainers who ended up voting for the red flag-induced alleged rapist. Okay? So this, if anything, doubles down and offers more credence to whoever the hand-selected candidate is that will be anti-establishment. That's what I think. Fighting in public about it is not great. Even then, I don't necessarily agree with that either. I think very publicly opposing the establishment Democrats, even if the establishment, here's what it is. Even if the establishment Democrats were like, we're totally fine with Troy Jackson, which they very well could be, by the way, because Troy Jackson is like much more balanced, boring, issue focused, right? So like, they probably would be fine with the Troy Jackson replacement. But if there's a seeming battle between the establishment forces and Graham Plattner here, that actually boosts the legitimacy of Troy Jackson. I think it boosts his left populist anti-establishment credibility. Do you not understand that Bernie fucking Sanders just unendorsed him? Plattner doesn't have the same level of motion anymore. I don't think you guys are understanding. This has nothing to do with Bernie Sanders. This has everything to do with the voters in Maine and what they voted for, what their demands are. Okay? At this point, Graham Plattner, the person, is utterly irrelevant. Okay? This is more so the platform and the demands. They voted before he was outed as a rapist, bro. I don't think you guys understand what I'm saying here. Okay? This has been lost in the conversation. I don't know why. I don't know why this has been lost in the conversation in its entirety. An election took place. Okay? An election took place with a shit ton of red flags on Graham Plattner regardless. Okay? And the voters said, We don't care about the red flags. Those red flags are not red flags for us. We care about the platform. We care about saying fuck you to the establishment Democrats. Okay? The voters voted for the character to a certain degree, not the character, like the moral character of Graham Plattner, but the character he portrays himself as, right? The rugged veteran guy who speaks convincingly on a lot of these issues. I'm talking about the Mainers and the way they're looking at the situation. A rejection of that populist rage would cause voter apathy. Okay? Given the fact that he's still outperforming Janet Mills by like 7 points after the voters that were polled knew that he was a rapist, alleged rapist, I think there's still plenty of fucking anger in the tank. Any conversation that does not feature the demands of the Mainers that voted for Graham Plattner pre-rape allegation is the dumbest conversation of all time and will lead to complete failure here against Susan Collins. 100%. The low-key lawyer at the center of the search for a Plattner replacement, Charles Dingman, chair of the Maine Democratic Party and a progressive, would play a key role in choosing the state's Democratic Senate candidate if Graham Plattner leaves the race. This is from Tim Balk. If Graham Plattner withdraws from the Senate race in Maine, the task of finding a new Democratic nominee will fall in part to Charles F. Dingman, a progressive with a soft-spoken professorial style, who is the chair of the Maine Democratic Party. Mr. Dingman, 72, a lawyer from rural Leeds, Maine, who enjoys hiking mountains, sometimes two a day, has been in his role for about a year and a half. But now with Mr. Plattner's campaign appended by a rape allegation that he denies, Mr. Dingman's position has taken on a new urgency. Yeah, people are so eager to dunk on DSA or leftists that they lose sight of what Mainers are saying with their votes. Exactly. I don't know why. Part of the reason why the person, Rasico, who is the rape victim, didn't come out initially was because of the calculation even she was making. Okay? And part of the statement after she came out as being victimized by Graham Plattner was still the idea that she agrees with his politics. Okay? Like it's crazy to me that people are just like casting all of that aside. None of this is to say that Graham Plattner should remain in the race, mind you. I'm saying he should drop out. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the policies and that platform, that left populist rage, still very much remains at the heart of a lot of voters in Maine. Okay? I don't know why people don't see what I'm seeing, and it leads me to believe that maybe there's a little bit of, astroturfing of this message, of this meta. Chat is waiting for you to address this characterization of you. Okay. We got to lock in, please. It's perfectly understandable that a lot of leftists are going to resist the idea that there's value to a rapist endorsement. It's not really that hard to understand. I know, but we're not having a conversation about like the morality of the situation. We're having a conversation about the pragmatic nature of this decision. Okay? Analysis does not equal endorsement. I can't believe I have to repeatedly say this even at this point. I've made my position on Graham Plattner very clear. Okay? I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. We're not talking about online leftists. We're talking about fucking Mainers, man. We're talking about people in Maine. The people that went out, and voted for Graham Plattner in Maine are not majority report heads. They're not Michael from Pennsylvania fans. They're not fans of mine that heard, my commentary on the matter and were like, yeah, it's very clear that Graham Plattner is a better choice here. I'm excited to go and vote for him. They're not. They're people that are not online. Do you understand? So it's the back and forth that's taking place on the timeline on Twitter is utterly immaterial. If anything, the fucking Facebook comments and the TikTok comments are probably closer to the average normie's perspective. It's the same reason why it's very frustrating that whenever I talk about like the qualities of the candidate, when I talk about Graham Plattner and like what was so appealing about Graham Plattner for a lot of people, they immediately go, "Oh, you're defending him. Oh, you love him. You want him to be your boyfriend. You want him to be your dad." No, okay. I'm talking about what was appealing, what drew unbelievable turnout in the fucking Senate primaries in Maine. Okay. When I say he's a great communicator, okay, that doesn't mean I like the guy. And that certainly doesn't mean I think he should be the senator, whether today or even before. Okay? It's very stupid because I've seen a lot of that happening on the timeline where people are like, oh, Hassan Piker said Graham Plattner's, comms is really fucking good. It is. It was. He won. It's so strange. What utility is there to deny that? In any case, that's a brief update on the Graham Plattner situation. Trump also fielded some questions where he talked about communism, apparently, in this press conference. So we're going back to Ankara. We're going back to NATO.
On communism, you've been issuing a wake-up call to Americans at home about the dangers of communism. And now you're speaking on the world stage. What's your message to people both living under communist and...
Like, again, the problem is that you dismissed the first accusation saying it wasn't credible. You're failing to realize that the first accusation you dismissed is not credible. When you lock someone in a room that is violent, that is a red flag you ignored. Yeah, I still don't think Lindsay Fifield is sincere. I'm going to be honest with you. That's crazy. Lindsay Fifield literally spent most of her political career denying bodily autonomy to women and denying credible rape allegations like the one that I recognize as a credible rape allegation against Graham Plattner when we were potentially discussing the appointment of Brett Kavanaugh, a person who had credible rape allegations that Lindsay Fifield worked as a political operative to deny, who then turned around, not only turned around and did that, but also Brett Kavanaugh turned around and denied bodily autonomy to 100 million plus women in this goddamn country. Okay? What I said at the time was if she had contemporaneous conversations and a credible rape allegation, it wouldn't matter if she's a Republican operative or not. The New York Times reporting on this, I stand by my analysis on the New York Times reporting on this. There will be reporting on how the New York Times actually botched their reporting on this to begin with. Just wait. This is not about like, oh, she's an imperfect victim, so I don't believe her. Paired up with the New York Times reporting that actually took Rasico's statements as a troublesome experience. Don't you feel like that's an entirely different type of report?
Socialist regimes, but also people living under democracies like in Europe and America.
Her hypocrisy isn't a good argument for the event not happening, and reflexive teaching for it as an excuse makes the environment for victims coming forward worse.
America, who might not have realized how close communism has come to home.
Yeah, that's
the
a great
fuck up,
question.
rape
actually, but
apologist,
look, I want
horrible
to get
take.
the word.
Okay, we're moving on from this. We're going back to the Trump NATO, the Trump NATO statements. Wish you'd ignore the chuds. Sometimes it's not chuds.
Because what's forming is communism in the country. And communism's easy to sell. I would be the greatest communist in history. I'd be right up there with Lenin. I'd be as good as anybody. You've got free rent for the rest of your life. What they don't say is that you'll be living in squalor in 12 months. You've got a free house. Would anybody like to have a free house? We'll take it away from somebody. We'll give it to you. You'll have murders all over the place. Communism's a disaster. It's been proven to be for thousands of years under different names, but same thing. It's very important. And, you know, it's funny. One of the reasons I do so well with Hispanic people, I set a record, Republicans. I get great numbers for the election, helped me get elected in a landslide. The Hispanics, because a lot of them came from countries that were essentially communist. You know, whether you call them radical socialist or communist is not that much, but there's a little difference. When they say social democrats, we're social democrats, it sounds so nice. It's not nice. It's a very dangerous term. So I do talk about it, and I talk about it on TikTok, and I talk about it everywhere. I talk about it here.
You talk about it on TikTok.
And you're right, it has become international, but it's never worked, and it's not going to work. What is working is the United States. So think of it, we have more jobs than we've ever had. People are making more money than they've ever made. I'm talking about workers now. I'm talking about workers. They're making higher salaries than they've ever made before. It's just the best system, and it's got flaws, but everything's going to have a little flaw, but it's been amazing. And when I watch what's happening, and I see these lowlifes getting, I mean, they're lowlifes. I watch them. I know good people. I know quality people. These are essentially lowlifes. And when I see what they're talking, I think they're very dangerous in many ways. And I've said it. And then I said, boy, that's a pretty big statement. Then I realized, you know, a couple of people said, I think you're probably right. I think this country, with this thing that's going around, is in more danger than it was during World War I, World War II. If you talk about September 11th, if you talk about Pearl Harbor, that was big danger. I think the concept of us going communist, because one thing that happens when you go communist, you never come back, never comes back. You die in squalor. You die a horrible death. You die in squalor, and it gets very evil and very nasty.
Great stuff, Mr. President. Thank you. MAGA communism is over. Well, I guess MAGA communists could be like, I could be a better communist than Lenin, and they agree with that. Ay, ay, ay. Meanwhile, while this conversation is taking place, new round of strikes against Iran ordered by Trump to further degrade Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. says it is holding Iran accountable for what it calls unjustified aggression against commercial shipping and civilian crews. This is from CENTCOM. So back to the same tit for tat back and forth. Great.
Much of that money is being spent on American-made equipment. They all want American-made equipment. We're pushing very hard to have the defense companies. They're great. We make the best equipment. The Patriots and the Tomahawks and everything we have is considered to be the best. Not by me. It's everybody wants it. I wish we made it faster because we could sell as much as we could make. And as you know, I had Lockheed and every one of the companies, all of the companies, which are Raytheon as an example, Boeing. So many of those great companies are now building plants. They had big plants, but they were using them 24/7. I said, that's not the way to do it. You have to build more plants. You don't have to just go overtime. No tax on overtime. Remember that, please? No tax on overtime. Those people are happy. But they were doing literally 24 hours to get the Tomahawks done and the Patriots done and all of the other defensive and offensive equipment done. It's the most sought after equipment in the world. You saw that with Venezuela, where they had a lot of great equipment. It wasn't ours, and it didn't work. Our equipment works, but we have to produce it faster for other countries. For everybody, including ourselves, we have to produce it faster. So we think within a year and a half max, we'll be, instead of waiting for a year or 2 years, we'll be having it on a 2-week wait, maybe a 1-week wait. That's what I want. And it'll do really well. A lot of people are, just waiting. They're waiting. They want to get this defensive equipment, maybe in particular the defensive equipment, but offensive and defense. As much of that money is being spent on American-made equipment. That's the money that the European and Canada are spending, European countries mostly, and Canada. And they're spending that with the United States, largely. And it's American-made, made in the USA, as we say. Weapons, munitions, supporting thousands of American jobs. This will increase.
Erdogan gave personalized revolvers to each of the leaders attending the NATO summit, along with live rounds of ammo. The Turkish president supplied export papers for each of the guns, which were inscribed with the name of their recipients. Starmer has not taken home the gun he was gifted, as it would be illegal to bring it to the UK, but left it behind for decommissioning. Dude, give it to me, bro. I'll take it. Free gun. That's also such a strange thing where it's like, here, use this to kill yourself. Like, it can, I don't know what it means symbolically. You know what I mean? Here's a free gun with bullets. I don't know. I find it odd.
We have the highest number of jobs. Right now, we have the most people working in the United States that we've ever had in the history of our country. We have the biggest investment ever made, $19.2 trillion. That's 6 times more than we've ever had. Think of it, 6 times more. And what did that were tariffs. Without the tariffs, I think we would have done fine, like at about 2 or 3. The last administration had much less than $1 trillion invested for 4 years. We have $19.2 trillion invested in 1 year. We haven't gone into the extra almost a half a year, 1.5 years. Those numbers won't come out for a little while. So we have 19.2 trillion, not billion, not million, trillion with a T, invested in plants and equipment that's being built all over the country. Eli Lilly is building plants, big drug, Merck, all of them. The drug companies are building. The car companies are building like crazy. In fact, as you probably saw a big announcement yesterday, Toyota is leaving Mexico and they're going to build one of the biggest car manufacturing plants in the world in Texas. That's because of the terrorists, because we don't mind if you build in Mexico, but if you build in Mexico, you have to pay 25% tariff. If you build in Japan, or if you build in any place, now China is a much higher tariff. It's 100% tariff because we don't want to lose our jobs. We don't want to have our workers lose their jobs. We have the largest number of plants being built for the most money ever.
Brother, I don't want to sound alarmist, but with the NATO summit wrapping up with an emphasis on increased defense spending / increased Russian and Ukrainian tensions, renewed Iranian escalations, are we not inevitably heading down towards another world war? I mean, one could maybe make the argument that we already have this world war that's happening, right? I mean, there is war happening all around the world. America's at the site of all of that conflict. America's in the scene of the crime everywhere. But, you know, who knows? But yeah, one thing is clear. De-escalation is not imminent. Russians obviously knew Trump approved giving Ukraine targeting intel for deep strikes on RU energy. Russia answered it this year by providing Iran targeting intel on U.S. bases, radars, and infrastructure. Iran defeated the U.S. Quite a brilliant trade-off. It was from senior fellow at FPRI, Rob Lee, from December, from the New York Times reporting, sorry. But in secret, the Central Intelligence Agency in the U.S. military, with his blessing, supercharged a Ukrainian campaign of drone strikes on Russian oil facilities and tankers to hobble Mr. Putin's war machine. Otherwise, obviously, America would be freaking the fuck out about Ukraine hitting critical Russian infrastructure, specifically for oil and gas. So clearly, the fact that they're not telling Ukraine to stand down implies that they were probably playing a role in the strikes. Which is, again, ironic because it increases the pressure on Trump to de-escalate. Because, again, the more Ukraine gains leverage by successfully striking critical Russian oil and gas infrastructure, okay, the more market volatility increases, the more Trump has to lean into a cessation of hostilities with Iran. Trump having no investment or interest in the Ukrainian war doesn't change the highest priority that Trump has, which is to fix the energy crisis. Okay? Do you guys understand? Every successful strike on Russian oil and gas infrastructure that gives Ukraine tremendous leverage over Russia, okay, that much is clear, also causes more market volatility. It's this very weird predicament that America's in, where on the one side, the more they give Ukraine bandwidth to strike oil and gas, the more critical it is that they stop the conflict in the Strait of Hormuz. So what do? These are contradictory goals. As the campaign began to show results, Mr. Ratcliffe discussed it with Mr. Trump. The president seemed to listen to him. They had a frequent Sunday tea time. God. According to U.S. officials, Mr. Trump praised America's surreptitious role in these blows to Russia's energy industry. They gave him deniability and leverage, he told Mr. Ratcliffe, as the Russian president continued to jerk him off. The energy strikes could come to cost the Russian economy as much as $75 million per day, according to one U.S. intelligence estimate. The CIA would also be authorized to assist with the Ukrainian drone strikes on Shadow Fleet vessels in the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Gas lines would start forming across Russia. This has been happening since the beginning of this month, as Financial Times also reported. Ukraine is striking Russian energy infrastructure at an unprecedented rate, according to the Financial Times data analysis showing that Kyiv's intensified drone campaign is spurring Russia's worst fuel crisis in decades. Analysts attribute the growing success of Ukraine's drone campaign to its ability to significantly increase production as well as improved management. American intelligence assistance has also played a role aiding Kyiv in charting the best paths for his drones and helping to skirt air defenses, senior Ukrainian officials told the Financial Times. Since the beginning of 2026, Russian refineries have been hit at least 194 times, an 11-fold increase from the same period the previous year. I don't think the U.S. objective in energy costs, it is hegemony. In that case, the U.S. is trying to balkanize Russia and take over Iran makes complete sense. No, the United States, as the hegemonic superpower, has obviously the highest interest, the highest priority interest for the United States is to maintain and stabilize oil and gas prices. Okay? A complete collapse of the international order will happen if there is no more oil and gas. It will ruin everything. But at the same time, Ukraine's successive strikes on Russian oil and gas, the oil and gas infrastructure, has given Ukraine tremendous amounts of leverage. Please stop linking me fucking Mitch McConnell memes leaving the goddamn hospital. Okay, stop. It's wild how much of a blind spot we still have for what's happening with that war. These agitprop media sites fail to mention Ukraine is also taking exponentially worse losses and having its infrastructure decimated. But of course, they won't mention any of that. Yes, but again, Ukraine is suffering blows, certainly, as Russia has obviously increased the intensity of its civilian targeting, whether it be critical civilian infrastructure or whether it be like directly killing civilians. Having said that, however, Russia also has a lot to lose in this process, as opposed to in the past, where the Americans were not giving them appropriate targets to hit inside of Russia, and certainly telling them, I assume, not to hit oil and gas infrastructure.
In the history of our country, car plants, AI plants, and all other plants, pharmaceutical plants, chips. We're not giving anything. All we're saying is, if you don't start, they will give them a year and a half to 2 years to build their plant. If they don't have that, they have to pay 100%, 200%, even 250%. If they make a chip, or if they make a car, or if they make pharmaceuticals. So the pharmaceutical companies are moving in at record levels. There's never been anything like what's happening. Let me put it a different way, put it to you in a more broad fashion. There has never been anything like has happened with this country or any other country in the history of the world. There has never been growth. There's never been manufacturing plants being built. We have so many being built. And in the big ones, like AI, some of the AI, we let them build their own electric plants. We force them to build. We don't want it because the old grid that we have wouldn't be able to supply. They need, just as an industry, more energy than the entire country produces right now, when you think about it, which is incredible. So take all of the energy that the United States produces, and that one industry, which is so big, so powerful, it needs more than that. In fact, some people say almost double. So this was my idea. I said, you can never service that. You can't reinvigorate the grid. You can make it better, but nothing like that. You wouldn't be able to build. And we're leading China in AI, in just about everything. But we're leading China in AI. Even in TikTok, I was watching somebody say, oh, the TikTok deal, it's so bad because they say the deal was incredible, but they think the word that gets out is bad, except the numbers just came out, and I'm number one on TikTok, and all I do is talk about communism.
Oh, my God.
So it's sort of good. I used it to get elected, too. But, you have to get your word out. But the numbers came out just a little while ago, and I was number one, some ridiculous number. I never heard of numbers like that, but number one. And all these entertainers are number 27, 29. It's crazy. I don't even understand myself. But
where the fuck did this come from, by the way? Where did this come from? Why is he rambling about, what is this? I haven't even seen this. Normally I keep up with all of Trump's latest fascinations, right? I don't even know where this number came from. Why is he? I'm a numbers guy. I don't see this number. I never saw this number. And I don't know where the Tic Tac decided Donald Trump is the number one guy. I'm a numbers guy. And Mr. President, Donald Trump, I really like the number. I don't know where you got it, though.
That means that my word's getting out about how great our country is, how successful our country is, and how bad communism is, and how bad these lunatics are that are running for election that don't sound good, don't think good, and don't look good. I don't see any looker. I don't see anybody with the look. You know, you need the look, I guess. You need something, but they don't have it. And I think they'll fade fast. And it's not social democrats. This is not a social these are communists that are running. And they don't want God. They don't want successful things to happen for our country. They don't want to have a successful country. I think they're sort of crazy. As European nations rebuild their militaries, American equipment will be the largest beneficiary. The defense companies are going to be making most of that equipment. They want the American equipment because it works better. It's not a question of anything else. We make the best equipment in the world. And to that end, I provided other leaders with an update on the steps we're taking to rapidly scale up production in the United States. And they wanted to hear that because they don't really want to get it in 4 years, 5 years. They want to get it like in a week. And we'll actually be at a point like that in the not too distant future with the plants that are being built. The defense plants, it's incredible. Lockheed is building, I think, 5. Some of them are building 3, 4, or 5, and they're big ones. It's going to quadruple the output of we have with the munitions and the basic equipment itself, whether it's a Patriot.
I know you like the number. Donald Trump keeps saying that he's number one on TikTok. The truth is that he doesn't even make it into the top 50. He has 16.6 million followers on TikTok. Well, Kaby Lame has 160 million and Ashel Speeds has 53 million. Not sure why he's lying about the number. At the direction of the commander-in-chief, the U.S. Central Command Forces have started conducting additional... Yeah, we already covered this. I already covered this. Çok yarak kafalı bir başkanınız var amına koyayım. Abi yani Türkiye'de de öyle. Herkes reis artık. Herkese bir reis kendine göre.
Communism's.
Do you think he uses picture books in his speech notes? I mean, he definitely uses a teleprompter, I'm pretty sure, right? All right, let's skip. Oh, there was also this. Breaking news. Trump says Iran ceasefire is over and calls Iranian leaders scum. Macron, Erdoğan el ele. They're not holding their wives' hands. They're holding each other's hands. What the fuck? I got so uncomfortable from the photo. Yeah, they're gay lovers. Bro looks half dead. Is crazy. Erdoğan is another one of those, despotic leaders that people that have to live under him routinely claim is on the verge of death or is like one medical incident away. It just doesn't happen. This is why I have a lot of experience with the Trump health scares, Macron living the dream, married to his elementary school sweetheart, his prior teacher. Okay, dude. What a strange. I mean, the Ankara summit has given us some very funny memes, very strange experiences overall. Yeah, just like you and Moscow Mitch. Yeah, this is what I did to Moscow Mitch.
Everything is beautiful. We've had some very good meetings, in particular with Turkey and trade, and now we're meeting with everybody today. As you know, we're going to have a very big meeting with lots of leaders from, I think, every country, right? Every country showed up,
They're all
every
there.
NATO country.
Yeah.
Plus, we have a couple that aren't in NATO that would like to be in NATO, I guess. But it's been very successful. It's been a fantastic meeting. So I'll be having a news conference after we're finished today at about 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I assume most of you will attend. But a lot of things have been determined, and some things haven't, frankly. We attacked very powerfully last night the very dangerous people from Iran. They're sick. There's something wrong with them. We said, go and do your funeral stuff. And instead of that, they start shooting rockets at ships yesterday. And so we hit them very hard last night, very hard. I would say 20 to 1, 20 times tougher. And I told them, every time you hit, we hit. And of course, they're dirty players, so they go after everyone, probably including me. I've been number one on their list for years. And they're a bunch of scum, you want to know the truth. They're scum. And so we don't like them. I don't like them. And they're evil people, and it's the denuclearization of Iran.
It's just okay. I need people to understand something here, okay? Iran fought and won this tremendous leverage, which is the control over ships transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay? Iran fought for it. Iran bled for it. Many Iranians died in the process. Tens of billions of dollars of damage Iran withstood in the process. There's just no way that they're going to magically allow the United States to now casually send ships through the Omani coastline. Okay, Lamau, what are you reading? I'm reading chat. What do you think I'm reading? So obviously they're not going to decide to throw that away. They're not going to magically throw that away, especially when the United States has come to the table for a potential long-standing cessation of hostilities. Okay? All the United States is doing in the process by sending ships off the Omani coastline is goading Iran to go back into the battle. What is gained through war cannot be lost through diplomacy? Yes. So whenever Donald Trump comes out and is like, oh, they're violating, they're treacherous scum, they're whatever, like what gets lost in this conversation is that the memorandum of understanding from the Iranian perspective also gave them control over the Strait of Hormuz. Iran basically said, look, we're going to allow all the ships to go through. They just have to go through on our side. They have to go through with our control over the Strait of Hormuz. For America, the biggest problem is allowing Iran to keep that leverage, allowing Iran to keep this very powerful tool, control over the Strait of Hormuz. So when they say, oh, Iran is actually violating the memorandum of understanding, they're scumbags, it's not true. Iran is not violating the memorandum of understanding. Iran is actually abiding by the conditions set forth within the memorandum of understanding by, trying to maintain their leverage. America doesn't want that leverage, so they're trying to sneak ships through the Omani coastline. That's the reason why Iran initially retaliated by striking some of these ships, right? They're just enforcing their side of the bargain.
And we're going to denuke it. We're not going to let them because they're crazy and they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they go around killing people. They've killed thousands and thousands of our soldiers. They've killed hundreds of thousands of innocent people.
Yeah, this was an interesting question, too. Paige says, last month, you said Iranian leaders were very rational people, nice people to deal with, strong people, smart people. Today, you said they were scum, sick people, and being led by sick people. What changed?
Mr. President, Tyler Pager with the New York Times. Last month, you said Iranian leaders were very rational people, nice people to deal with, strong people, smart people. Today, you said they were scum, sick people, and being led by...
Can we be honest that you're not qualified to give a professional opinion on what? On political commentary? How many years do you think I need to be doing this for you to assume that this is like, appropriate? If 13 is not enough, then I don't think you're ever going to say that my opinion is worth a damn, which is fine. You can just click out. Perhaps it's not my credentials that you are calling into question. It's that you don't like the things that you're hearing from me. So you're calling into question the credentials. Not a lot of people that do political commentary of this sort, especially on the internet, that have even remotely the credentials that I have, ironically enough, something that I don't usually bring up. Unlike my counterparts in this space, I at least graduated with a political science degree and a communication double major, ironically enough, again. Many of the people, especially on the opposing side, did not even graduate from college or ever graduate with a degree of this sort. They don't even try to make it seem like they know what they're talking about. Oftentimes they will say things like, who needs reading anyway? I can just use my imagination.
By sick people. What changed, and do you think they're...
I got to know them. So I've said that about a lot. Now, when you say rational, I think they're much more rational than level 1, level 2. Level 1 is gone, level 2 is gone. This is level 3. I think they are more rational, but based on their actions over the last week or two.
How can you say that? You have any qualification when you got no subs in hours? True. Please subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service, the People's Broadcasting Service. It's the only way to support independent media, by subscribing. No ads. Subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service for tomorrow's news today.
They're not doing a service to the people. And I think more than anything else is I got to know them. And I'm not sure I want to make a deal with them. We can play games, but I'm not sure I want to make a deal. I just finished the job. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm the second largest political commentator on this platform that we're on, one of the largest in North America, the largest left content creator, the largest left political commentator on the independent media side. Here is the largest on this platform. He just happens to be right-wing. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
Did you ever read Atlas Shrugged? No, I don't really read books. It's a waste of time. I just invent my own narratives in my mind, and I just build everything off of my own fantasies.
I know he's trying to be sarcastic, but it is quite literally what he does.
I just make everything up.
You're class 4 obese.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't joke about this when you have also said it sincerely in the past. And we've also heard your commentary. Dude lacks sarcasm skills. No, I know he's trying to say this sarcastically, but he's also said it sincerely. You know what I mean? If you've said it sincerely in the past, you can't just sarcastically claim it now. Because it just comes across as you saying it sincerely.
You're class 4 obese.
Yeah, thanks.
Also, for you to say this sarcastically, you would also had to have, shown at other times that you know what you're talking about. Trump ağzının tadını biliyor. Michelin-starred chef Fatih Tutak, who prepared the NATO summit dinner menu. Donald Trump liked the braised beef ribs and eggplant puree the most and asked for the recipe to have it added to the White House menu. Trump ağzının tadını biliyor. Aynen. Eyvallah. Turks on top. Oh, yeah. Here is him saying it sincerely and not with a shred of irony or sarcasm. Here it
You
is.
openly admitted you never do research or read articles outside of Twitter. How can you shamelessly tell others to read more? I don't need to understand whatever article you want me to read. All I need to understand is human psychology and incentives. And incentives and human psychology are the deciding factors of how people will behave. I don't need to read your little special book or your Wikipedia article or anything else besides that. None of that stuff matters. What matters fundamentally is how do people act, how do people think, and how do people respond to incentives. If you can understand that, then nothing else matters. It's pretty simple. You openly admitted you never do research or read.
He's a Jiangist. Yeah, he's a Professor Jiangist. Professor Chung. Yeah, he also uses a lot of grok to fill the holes that he has, I guess, in his brain.
Roadside bomb, Soleimani. I took care of him first term. And that was a big thing. I think it probably would be a lot stronger had he been around, because he was a bad guy, but he was an evil genius, but a bad guy. And he was the father of the roadside bomb. The roadside bomb is a bomb that goes on when you're driving your little vehicle around, and it goes on and you have no legs, no arms, and no face. And they've killed thousands and thousands of people. Even the SS Cole was theirs, if you remember that disaster. So I don't like them at all. And frankly, I think we waste a lot of time with them. I think we should just do our business. Can you imagine? They start shooting bombs, actually missiles at ships yesterday. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, a couple of others. And I don't think they know what the hell they're doing, but they're bad people, very bad people. I think they're incompetent, by the way. Because if they were competent, they would have made a deal a long time ago, like, how about 47 years ago? So they've been in trouble for 47 years, and we took out their first set of leaders, we took out their second set of leaders. They want to take out the U.S. leader, me. I'm on every list. I saw a thing this morning, I'm on every single one of their lists. And so far, I guess I've been a little bit lucky, but that maybe doesn't last very long, because that's the way it goes. But we have great people. But these are evil, sick people, and we have to rid their cancer. Their cancer. And you know what you do? You got to cut out cancer early. Man, that's the way I feel. And I want to thank Mark. He's been a great Secretary General of NATO. I'm not happy with NATO because of what they did with Greenland. And I'm not happy with NATO because of the fact that they didn't want to help us with the #1 state sponsor of terror, that's Iran. They were unwilling to help us. Now, in all fairness, I didn't speak to Mark about it. I think if I did, it might have been different, but we didn't need help. But I was really testing. I wanted to see whether or not they'd be there. And the answer is they were. I spoke to Germany, I spoke to France, spoke to UK, spoke to Italy, I didn't speak to Spain. Spain is a wasted cause. We don't want to do any trade business with Spain anymore, by the way. I'd like you to cut it off. Spain is a terrible partner in NATO. They don't participate, they don't pay. I don't want anything to do with Spain. Cut off all trade with Spain, please.
Saying that. Cut off all trade with Spain, please. Like, he genuinely thinks he's a king, I think. Do it now. Cut it off. No more tapas, okay? I go to a restaurant. What the hell is a tapas anyway? It's more expensive for tiny plates. Who the hell do you think you are? Cut it off. We're done with that. Big plates only. No more tiny portions. I don't like it. This is food for ants. Finger foods.
Including visits. Okay, we don't want anything to do. Watch them come running back. Oh, they'll come running back. They treat this man terribly. And this man's a good man, too. Great man. They're lucky they have him. But Spain...
God, I've never seen someone reduce themselves so much, so publicly, debase themselves what a humiliating, spineless piece of shit Mark Rutte is. Dude sitting across from him is just fucking lighting the entire planet on fire. And he just sits there and goes, nope, that is daddy. That's daddy. Oh, thank you for saying I'm good. Daddy, have I done well by you, daddy?
Doesn't agree to anything. And you shouldn't carry them. I mean, you sort of automatically carry because you're protecting an area, so they're there. So they probably figured they have to protect us, right? But we don't have to, and we don't have to trade with them. I don't want to do any more trade with them. All right? Yes, take it immediately. You don't even talk to them. They're hopeless.
Don't even talk to them. Don't even listen to them if we're doing trade or not with them. If they say we are, that's a lie. It's over.
Because, you know, they have everybody else going and paying and working. In Spain, in particular Spain, there are a couple of others, but in particular Spain, they're open about it. They're hostile about it. And let's see how hostile they remain when they call up and they, please, please, we want to trade with you, sir. We want to trade with you, sir. They make so much money with us, and we're going to see that they make a lot less. I want no business with them. So, other than that, we're having the big meeting in a little while, and I'm going to relate my problems. Greenland is a big problem for us, and the other big problem is the fact that when we wanted them, we didn't want them badly, but we did say, if you want to join us, and they all said no. But when they could have, they weren't there for us, and we've been there for them. We spent over $1 trillion over the last short period, $1 trillion, in order to protect these countries from Russia. And has nothing to do with us. We have an ocean, but it's been a long-term thing, and they haven't treated us right. And Mark understands that. He understands that. And we're going to work something out, I think, one way or the other. But we've been treated unfairly. We pay disproportionately. We had a time when we were paying 100%. We were paying 100% of NATO, and yet a lot of the countries weren't paying anything. But there was calls made a few weeks ago. I spoke with UK, and the Prime Minister said, well, we don't want to help you now, but we'll help you when the war's over. I said, that's not good. And likewise, I spoke to Germany. They didn't want to help. Spoke to France. They didn't want to help. Nobody wanted to help. Some of the very small countries wanted to help because they're the most vulnerable. I mean, that's the only reason they wanted to help. So I appreciate you being here. We're going to be going back together, many of us together. And again, I want to say, despite the fact that I'm very upset with NATO, that we pay far, far too much, billions and billions of dollars too much, because it's unfair, because we're protecting them.
I like that he went on to this NATO summit to be like, I'm taking back Greenland. NATO still sucks dick and balls. All of you need to keep giving more money to NATO. Like, it is just, but we've gotten so used to him doing this every single time that it's not even like seen as a disaster at this point. You know? It's no longer even like a disastrous NATO summit. It's just another NATO summit. Awesome. Meanwhile, yes, this fucking spineless little cretin, Mark Rutte, who calls Trump daddy, got a fucking lashing from a Danish reporter. He asked, you sit next to Donald Trump at moments when he talks about conquering Greenland, talks about lashing out at allies like Spain, things it doesn't seem like the old Mark Rutte would approve of. Does this have any effect on your self-respect when you sit there and say nothing?
Out at allies like Spain starting trade wars, things that it doesn't seem like the old Mark Rutte would approve of. Does this have any effect on your self-respect when you sit next to him like that and say nothing?
You know, what I always do is acknowledge when praise is due, and I think.
Awesome. Yeah. No, what can you even say to that question? The question is not even a question, it's an ass whooping.
I think we should praise Donald Trump for the fact that NATO is so much stronger. Of course, it has to do with the Russian threat, it has to do with the war in Ukraine, but it very much also has to do with President Trump delivering now what since Eisenhower the United States tried to achieve, equalizing spending between the US and Europe. And it makes Europe stronger. It makes Europe more relevant for the United States as a partner. So that is the transformative character of this summit, of what happened in The Hague, the implementation since The Hague, this summit as a point in time where we take stock, and I think that is extremely important. And when it comes to Greenland, I already explained. We had a meeting in Davos. And I said, I agree with you when it comes to Russia, when it comes to China, gaining access to the High North. But let's do this together. We have NATO for this. Let's work together on this. This is exactly what we are doing.
Okay, we have very...
EU is just America orbiter and Iran is a snarker. Am I understanding politics? Yes, you've nailed it. You've nailed it. Thank you. He did another press briefing with Syrian President Al-Jalani, and he said he will be informing Congress he will be removing Syria from the state-sponsored terror list. Yeah, I saw that.
So we protect them, but they're not there for us. Think of it. Doesn't work. But I want to say this is a great leader. They're lucky they have him.
OMG, it's Hassan the Savior, the Messiah, the one to save the world from communism, T, propaganda, fascism, socialism, and shocking his dog XD. Awesome. Thank you.
It's their biggest asset. You want to know that?
I don't even know what
So,
T propaganda is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. President, dear Donald. Let me start with Iran. We discussed it last night.
Dude, my my haters have gotten significantly dumber. They were always pretty stupid, but as the years have gone by, I don't know what happened, but like they've just gotten stupider and stupider. I don't know how. It's incredible.
At the presidential palace, I think what you did, degrading the nuclear capability, crucial for Israel, the region, for Europe. Degrading the ballistic missile capability of Iran, crucial for Israel, for the region, for Europe.
Yeah, he's straight up. He just sat there. He sat there and was like, it is so good that you are destroying Iran and its ballistic missiles capability. Everyone here, including Donald Trump, knows that that's not what happened, right? Like, that didn't happen. That did not happen. We know that it didn't happen. Mainstream reporting on it shows that that did not happen. And one of the best pieces of evidence for why it did not happen is the fact that Iran kept fucking striking Israel until they were like, okay, let's just stop doing that. Please. And not only that, but NATO's position currently and the European allies' position currently is please follow through on the memorandum of understanding and end this war. Because it's leading to energy market collapse. None of this is beneficial for Europe. The continuation of the war is not beneficial for Europe in any meaningful capacity. And yet Mark Rutte has to sit there and be like, no, this is great. This is awesome. Thank you for degrading the ballistic missiles, the ballistic munition striking capability of Iran. That's why things were looking up when he did the Palace Versailles signature. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Look at this. Look. They asked him, what is your reaction to the recent U.S. attacks on Iran? NATO's Rutte, I think it was absolutely necessary. Iran is violating the ceasefire.
Yes, sir.
What is your reaction on the recent U.S. attacks on Iran, and why don't you feel that this will overshadow this summit?
Well, I think it was absolutely necessary. Because when you have a ceasefire, and Iran is basically violating the ceasefire, we see what happened yesterday with ships being attacked. I think it is totally crucial that the US forcefully reacts. Yes, sir.
What is your reaction on the...
Oh my God. Drone production for Russia is being cooked is one good thing I'd say, but I don't know beyond that. Russia has its own drone productions, I thought. No, I don't even think that they rely on Iranian drone facilities any longer. Do they?
For the whole world. And then trying to bring this to a peaceful end. They attacking ships yesterday. I think what you did last night was absolutely necessary. It was a very strong response.
He's so full of shit. What about when Israel ignores the ceasefire? No, that's good. He loves when Israel ignores ceasefires. Are you kidding me? Anyway, there's more from the NATO summit.